Tabla was a secondary citizen of Indian music and did not get any kind of spotlight and had great allies like Pandit Ravi Shankar or Ustad Khan or Ustad Ali Akbar Khan who helped them a lot. So they sort of kind of prepped it, got it ready, and we got to enjoy the fruits of that. All the musicians in the world of jazz or in the world of rock, from George Harrison to Earth, Wind and Fire to Van Morrison to Peter Gabriel or African musicians, so they all knew Tabla. Tabla had already arrived. I've been writing pieces, composed pieces for symphony orchestras, movie scores, playing tours with all sorts of musicians from all over the world, and of course India. The challenges were, of course, to be able to make this understandable. Also, the challenge was to be able to break the shackles, but do not unplug from the roots. That is a mindset. Because lots of time Indian musicians, when they play with Western musician and say a Western musician plays a melody and says, what about this? The first thing a sitar player or a violin player or a sarangi player will say, oh, Rag Shuddha Kalyan, okay. So they are already locked up into their Indian raga system. They're not thinking, oh, that's a beautiful melody. Let me see what kind of counterpoint I can create on it, without worrying about ragas. Similarly with rhythms, I had to say, okay, jazz, swing, okay, but it's not 16 beats, teen tal, it keeps revolving, but that's fine, I can live with it. As long as I know where the band's downbeat is, I'll stick with it, and I won't worry about being a teen tal player or a chhap tal player or a rek tal player, but I'll just go with that. You're ready to be able to not worry about the gods of Rag Darbari and the Lord of Chaptal, throwing their lightning rod at you for messing up. If you don't worry about that, you can get into it. Gharanas were not what you may call a way of life. I don't say religion, I say a way of life. So Gharanas were not a way of life. They were a set of do's and don'ts that were allotted for a musician to be able to develop his or her art form. It had nothing to do with what you did once you were not doing that art form. What we must do is to be able to understand that in the core, we are Indians. And what that does not mean is that we are Hindus or we are Muslims or we are Sikhs or we are Christians or anything. It doesn't mean that. It means we are Indians. And that's one thing that music or art gives you, because it doesn't have those boundaries. I saw my father. He scored something like 42 films, feature films. He did music for films like with Nargis and Raj Kapoor and Ashok Kumar and all these great actors of those times. And so he did that, but he firmly believed that if he was to be able to focus on Indian music being his mode of expression, and for it to become a substantial and phenomenon, he needs to focus on it and take it further. And these two don't really mix, because when you get into doing film music, you have to constantly be there, the beck and call of the producers or the directors and stuff. You can't be in Amsterdam somewhere and getting a call, get on a plane and get back here tomorrow because we need to redo the song. So in this kind of situations, it became very difficult for me to accept projects, and reluctantly I did once, which I could quickly do. But my main focus was always on taking the instrument forward, making sure that Indian music through that performance finds a little better footing, because all this work that Ravi Shankar ji, Ali Akbar Khan Sahab, Vilayat Khan Sahab, Bismillah Khan Sahab, my father Allah Rakha, Pandit Kishan Maharaj ji and all have done, it should not go to waste. It's like Sachin Tendulkar can play, but if the next line doesn't show up, it just stops there.
तबले में जहाँ तक मुझे कुछ थोड़ा सा इन्फॉर्मेशन है, पखावज की जो परंपरा है उसमें कुछ ताल ज़्यादा बजाए जाते हैं, धमार, चौताल वगैरह। तबले में उसका थोड़ा सा जो दी अदर साइड ऑफ द कॉइन बोलते हैं, उसको पंजाबी धमार बोलते हैं, तो वो ये है। इसका ठेका आपने ता धिन क्रे धिन कृधिन धिन धा गे तिरिकिट धिन ना कत्ता कत्ता तिरिकिट ता तिरिकिट ता। तो पखावज में जब पेशकार जैसी बढ़ंत होती है तो वो ताल के बोलों को लेके होती है, तो उसी का एक थोड़ा सा अंदाज मैं कोशिश कर रहा हूँ कि तबले का जो पंजाबी धमार के बोल हैं वो ही उसमें ज़्यादा यूज़ हो।
Because I had to speak my music in their language so that they could understand it clearly, and for that I needed to understand their language. That's what I did. I went and I studied jazz, I studied rock, I studied pop, Western classical music, and then I spoke my instrument in their language, and it became easier. And then the mindset had to change, because I had to not tie myself down to the traditional shackles. I could not have done it without the help of doing TV ad or acting in a film. The visibility was important. And once people get to see me, and if they are curious enough and they show up into a concert hall, then it will be up to me to convert them. So that avenue was made available to me, lucky for me. And it happened at the time when I was young enough and agile enough and ready to work 24/7 to make this happen, and it fell right in my lap, and the time was ready, the people were ready, the musicians from all over the world were ready to receive this, and I happened, like when I arrived in San Francisco, John McLaughlin, Carlos Santana, Jefferson Airplane, Grateful Dead, they were all interested in learning about tabla and about Indian rhythms and stuff. And they were looking for someone, and I happened to be there. Having said that, of course, you have to make it work. So once you arrive somewhere and people give you the responsibility, you must make sure that you deliver. by like 23, 24 years old, that's when I started playing with John McLaughlin, jazz guitar player, and we started to tour together. And in those tours, I came across people like Herbie Hancock, the Weather Report, Chick Corea, all these great jazz maestros, and there were jam sessions. And in those jam sessions, you just, somebody started something, you had to go with it. It wasn't a rehearsed event. So you had to be aware of what was happening. It was a scary process to just, even sometimes just take one of the two tablas and play that. I mean, we were so tied together to playing both together. But it was, it was kind of like a landmark event for me to put one aside and play just the other one and find a way to be able to make that work. And so, these kind of things were a little terrifying, a little scary, but one finds one's way. Well, first of all, we should not totally break away from our past, which does seem to happen every now and then a lot. We tend to want to be able to be somebody other than what we in our core are. And that is a problem. The Hindustani classical music has developed. It has reached far corners of the world and is now considered as one of the premier form of Indian music without in any way polluting its core. That is the difference between art and commerce. Commerce is becoming successful but polluting the core of where we are. Art and culture is not. So there is that difference.